So if you're in your marketing journey as a company, at some point you're going to get to the point where the platforms you're using for your marketing aren't enough to make your decisions whether or not you're successfully navigating your ads. Maybe you start on Google or Bing and you start with search ads, and then you realize, oh, we can add in shopping ads. And then you go over and you realize, oh, we need Facebook. So we need to remarket against these customers. And so you remarket across Facebook and TikTok and Pinterest. Or you're the other way and you gain awareness on all your social platforms, TikTok, Pinterest. And then you go head over to Google to capture them when they're ready to finally make that choice on the product you've been kind of informing them about. Well, at some point you need high level metrics to see if you're investing in marketing in a way that isn't hurting your overall profitability, is allowing you to hit growth goals, and serves as a checking point or a caution to ensure you're not over investing in marketing and potentially creating a problem for your operations or your company. So depending on your business, you tend to have two big categories of business. You have those that are one-time purchase oriented, and then you have those that have a lower initial purchase value or maybe a high purchase value initially, but lots of repeat purchase or long lifetime value. Think software products that you subscribe to, products that you need every month that people are loyal to, a niche hair care product or uh, vitamins, supplements, that kind of thing. So the kind of different, those two buckets of business, the metrics you may look at are going to be similar but slightly different. For those that have a longer lifetime value and are a little more focused on the overall value of the customer versus those that have kind of that necessary need to ensure initial order profitability. So this bucket that we're going to talk about today is for those a little more focused on that initial order and profitable customer acquisition that allows for growth. So if you don't have a large LTV, you don't have lots of repurchase rate on your customer base, or you just don't know if that's going to occur, these two metrics, NMER and MER, will be a bit more appropriate to use and lean on when you're looking at top level metrics as a company goes to ensure your marketing effort is creating profitable growth that isn't going to harm your bottom line. Now, if you have infinite money, you're venture backed, it doesn't matter how much it costs to acquire the customer because you're not focused on profitable marketing, as we'll call it here, then these metrics may not matter. But if profitable marketing is important, you run a cash-based business, you have to profitably fund your own marketing out of your operations, and you're on a initial order type model, then NMER and MER are the metrics that are tentatively going to be the best for you to look at. What these two metrics represent and the actual numbers that they're given is simply the total revenue that you've generated divided by the marketing spend that you've incurred across all your platforms to achieve that revenue. NMER is particularly only applies to new customers. So if you were to look here, you're a Shopify customer, it makes it super easy. If you're not Shopify, you might have to look at a different tool, but you can see right now 13,000 is the total new customer sales for the day. So NMER, say you had 13,000, you spent $1,000 to get there, your NMER would be 13. Uh, and so NMER is your first target. The importance of NMER, again, if you're trying to profitably acquire customers and you need to be able to do that and have money left or break even, then NMER is going to be your first metric to look at. And what that'll let you see is if you're over investing in customer acquisition, you're not capturing customers efficiently, or maybe you're just not, you're pouring all your money in your marketing, but it's actually going to only showing to your existing customers, then your NMER target may be off. Ultimately, MER will be the most important metric in many ways because what it's going to show you is the total cost of your marketing relative to your total your revenue versus how much you spent on marketing. But what we're going to work towards here is how much net margin or how much of your gross margin is consumed by marketing. So think of MER as a hard stop point. If you overinvest, you've eaten up too much of your gross margin, then you could start to become negative or unprofitable from your excessive marketing. Versus NMER is more of a how are we doing efficiency wise in getting new customers, and are we getting new customers with some profit margin left? So this calculator here is going to take the standard way you calculate NMER and let you work into a target NMER that is based on your margins and what, if any, net margin you want left to contribute to your bottom line profitability on customer acquisition. So to figure out that NMER target, what you need first is that your margin after cost of goods, credit card fees, and shipping cost, and then what your desired contribution or net margin is after you've completed fulfilling everything with the order. So basically what your net margin to apply to your bottom line on new customers, meaning you're buying customers profitably, what that margin should be. This is generally going to be pretty small for most businesses. Marketing is your most expensive activity in many ways, especially a smaller business that is often the most expensive. So you usually can't aim for massive net margin after acquiring a customer to apply to your bottom line. And again, the important thing is this is what your net margin is after you've spent your marketing, after you've paid for the goods that you've sold, if you have good costs to your goods, after the credit card fees and shipping costs. This is the same without the marketing. So you may be able to, and you can figure out how much you're willing to invest in marketing kind of based on your gross margins. So if your total gross margin as a business is 25%, you may only spend 6 to 8% of your gross margin toward marketing. Now, on a new customer, it may be slightly higher than an overall business. So that 6 to 8% on a new customer may be 10 to 12%. So in this particular business, say their gross margin is 25%, and then the credit card fees and shipping costs take up about 7% of additional margin, leaving them 18% of gross margin, 18% is their gross margin available. And then after they've paid for the marketing fees, which will be up to 14% for new customers, they want to have an additional 4% on new orders. The revenue on new orders, they want to have 4% to be able to apply to the other costs of their business, the salaries, the building expenses, whatever it would be. So with those two factors, they can plug that in here and they can see what their new customer target, their NMER, has to be. And again, NMER is just revenue divided by ad spend. So just to give you an idea, that means for every dollar they spend, they want to make $7 in revenue in order to have 4% left. And that's because their margins are slim. Now, if they're willing to spend more of the marketing and have less to take home, if they're operating more on a break even, you can see that target drops a lot. This is another way to, you could also say this is a way to get a ROAS goal if you need profitable acquisition and you want to rely on the platform that you're marketing in. This is a way to set a ROAS that would allow for profitable acquisition. So NMER or ROAS, this would be a way to calculate that. So step one is NMER. And so what you can see is, if we start way over investing, so what you could see is you're investing a lot in marketing, your NMER is not holding where you need it to be, then you want to take steps to improve new customer acquisition. Maybe your campaigns aren't efficiently going towards new customers. Maybe they're only going toward returning customers. And what you would see then is that your overall efficiency of your marketing would be impacted. And that's what MER is. So MER is your total revenue divided by your marketing spend. Your MER as a target as a number should almost always be a higher number than your NMER target, because MER represents your total revenue as a company divided by your marketing investment. So, for many businesses, it's common to invest anywhere from 6 to 20% of gross margin into your marketing efforts in gaining new customers. It could be higher than that, especially if you have funding. But and so MER is kind of your hard threshold stopping point and red light. Because if you're over paying for your marketing efforts, you will start eating away your profits because you've over invested in marketing. So MER is going to be kind of a hard stop, whereas NMER is going to let you see how am I doing at getting new customers, and maybe you need to make adjustments to the channels or ways you're investing in marketing to be more new customer focused if your NMER target isn't working to be what you want or make your efforts more effective. So MER, the hard stop it is. So it's going to be more of the hard stop. And so what we can see here is what we'll see is what is our gross margin again after cost of goods, credit card fees, and shipping costs. If you don't have an ERP that you're tracking your profitability as an overall company, that would be first step to remedy fix before you even consider heavily investing in marketing. You can really hurt yourself. So this is your overall gross margin. And then this is how much margin you want left after you've invested in your marketing as a whole, as a company, to be able to apply to your other overhead and expenses, things like software that you might use around the business, your rent, your salaries if you have employees and salaries, health, employee benefits, all these non-product related fulfillment costs, whatever those are, you could even add those up and have an idea. So this is how much margin is left after investing in marketing that you want left to be able to apply to your kind of overhead expenses. And this section here will let you, if you know what these overhead expenses are, will let you kind of work out what percentage you need to be able to profitably fund your business. So if you had $1 million a month, and you need 100K for your overhead expenses, then you actually need 12% as your goal. And so now you have a MER target of 16 for your business. Or the easier way is to say, what's the maximum percentage of my gross margin, whatever your business's gross margin is. So that's your revenue minus your cost of goods and the percentage, of your top line. What is the total percent of the top line that you can invest safely and not hurt or harm your profitability? So if your gross margin is 25%, maybe you can at most invest 9%. Well, this gives you your MER target. So two ways to factor it: how much net margin you want after marketing to apply to your fixed expenses, or what's the most total amount of your marketing that how much margin your marketing can safely consume of your total gross margins as a business. Either one will give you your MER target. And again, your MER will serve as your hard stop. So if you see that your MER is only 8, what does that mean practically? It means that 12.5% of your revenue is going into marketing. And if your maximum out of pocket is 9, that means you're actually starting to lose on as a company at your monthly revenue. I'm sorry, your monthly net profit will decline approximately 3% because you've overinvested in marketing. So overinvesting in marketing is one of the easiest things that you can do in a small company, especially to harm your profits and even ruin your overall company. So thinking of MER especially as a safeguard and checkpoint, and then NMER as a kind of good rule to follow will allow you to invest in your marketing without incurring or limiting the potential for risk. All this comes down to you having to know your numbers, your margins, your shipping costs, your credit card fees, and then how much investing in marketing is reasonable based on your product and everything else. This is step one. Before you invest in marketing, you should know these things. And this is especially applicable for variable margin companies or businesses and or companies that tend to not have an excessively high lifetime value. We'll get into NCAC and how that can help if you have more of an LTV model or reoccurring purchase model to ensure, again, profitable marketing that's safe for your company's stage.